How to keep a conversation flowing without it feeling forced? That is a question that one of you guys asked under my last video, so I'm going to share some tips with you so you can have some better conversations that lead to real connection. My name is Isaiah, and throughout my life, I've gone through a social transformation that's made me way more likable, confident, and connected with people, and now I make videos to help you do the same. Now, this is my first question that I've gotten on YouTube, so shout out to the philosophy lover for asking it, and he's asking, how do you keep a conversation flowing and fun, particularly if it is a stranger you're talking to? So these are situations I've been in many, many times, and I've actually gotten quite good at them. So I have a few tips to share. The first is a mindset that is going to make these conversations way more easy for you to navigate. And then the rest are just like literal tactics, things you can steal right now from this video and use in your next conversation. So the first mindset is you want to approach people as if they were already friends with you. Imagine that they were a longtime friend from like 10 or something years ago. You're fond of them, you know they like you know you two are comfortable together, but in this conversation, you're kind of catching up. Because all of the time when we talk to new people, there are topics that we want to bring up or jokes that we want to crack or just, close ways that we want to interact with the person, give them a high five, a hug, whatever it might be. And we don't because we have this vision in our head of this person is a stranger, and I don't do that with strangers. But at the end of the day, we all like and enjoy connecting with people on a deeper level. And when you approach people as if they already like you, as if they're already friendly with you and interact on that level, they're going to notice and they're going to feel more connected with you. And that is how you turn a stranger into a friend. This is actually a tip I got from Lyle Knowles in the book 92 Tips to Talk to Anyone. It's a really good one. You should check it out if anything. So the second thing is you want to volunteer information about yourself and also ask them questions so you can learn more about them. Let's say, for example, it's somebody new you've met at work and you've started the conversation already and now you're just kind of at this awkward silence. You could say, oh, by the way, I work in the marketing department. I really like it because I get to go out and interact with a lot of people, in the real world. And it's something I like doing and being more on my feet. And then all you need to do is ask the person, and what about you? So now you've told them a bit more about you. So that's something that they can now pull on and be like, oh, marketing, that's interesting. Or, oh, you like going out and interacting with people. That's interesting. But now that you've shared, they're going to feel a bit of a pull to also share too. That's just how we work as humans. If we feel like someone has been vulnerable or shared something with us, we are going to naturally want to share something similar with them. So that is a good way that you can spark that initial conversation by just sharing something about yourself. So now you should be having a decent conversation and the person should be sharing information about themselves with you. And now a real way to capitalize on that and dive into even deeper conversation and better conversation is to go beyond the surface level by asking more specific questions. So something the average person does in conversation that is really bad is once we ask a question and we get any answer, we tend to just end that line of questioning. Let's say again, you ask the person, what do you do for work, right? They might say, I am an IT manager. And then that is kind of where you'll end, and you're looking now for a new topic, a new question to ask them. But there's so much more interest below the surface level of that initial answer that if you asked one or two more questions, you could get into a really interesting conversation and learn a ton more about the person. And again, you're keeping it flowing. You could ask, oh, what is your day-to-day like? That sounds really stressful. Where do you work? Who are the type of people you work with? Do you have a good team? What do you feel about that job? Do you like the job? Right? There's all these additional layers, and there's thousands of different questions you could say that will let the person unpack it in a way that you get to understand them a lot better. And again, keeps it fun, keeps it flowing, keeps it enjoyable. For going below the surface, I generally ask open-ended questions. So those are anything that start with who, what, where, when, how, and why. I'm not going to dive too much into it here, but I do have a video that I'm going to pin in one of the corners, I'm not sure which one, where you can learn a bit more about that. Another thing that I like to do that just adds a lot of fun to the conversation is to make assumptions about the person and tell them about it. So let's say, for example, the person is wearing a really interesting outfit. I might make an assumption like, oh, you must have a really good sense of style and must be reading fashion magazines on the weekend and have this Pinterest board full of different outfits. So the first thing that's going to do for the person is it's going to compliment them, which is just going to make them feel good about them, and feel good about you because you gave the compliment. The second thing that it does really well is it's going to spark their interest and kind of put them in a situation where they either have to confirm your assumption or deny your assumption. But either way, they will be talking more to you and diving more into who they are as a person. Regardless of if you're right or wrong, the person is going to tell you a bit more. So if they are into fashion, they're going to be like, oh yeah, no way. Like, how did you know that? Like, I do have a Pinterest board and I have this and I have like 15 outfits in my closet or whatever. But if they're not, they'll be like, oh, no way. Like, I actually don't do any of that. I just like to have a nice minimal style. And then you can ask them more about that style. And again, you're diving a little bit deeper, having a bit more fun, and just having a more flowing situation in general. Another thing that's pretty underrated is to use current events, right? Things happening in the world that we're all aware of. You know, some examples of these are, you know, how the week is going, how's the weekend, you know, how did they spend a holiday, what they thought about things in the news, for instance, right? Because there's always these things that are happening to our lives and around our lives that we all have some level of knowledge on, and it's impacting us in some way, but we don't really share or talk about it, and it's really underutilized. For example, if you get into a lull, you could ask them, or even better, volunteer information about your weekend and then ask them about theirs, right? Or you can ask them about how the day has been treating them, how they spent that holiday 2 weeks ago, right? How they spend their Easter, whatever it is, right? These seem like very simple and basic questions because one, they are, but something interesting about them is although they are simple, they do something really powerful, which it allows you to learn more about how this person spends their time and what they are interested in. So if you ask, how was your weekend? Most of the time, someone is just going to say good or bad, or it was all right. But if you ask, hey, what did you do on your weekend? How did you spend your weekend? That's a lot different because now they're going to say, oh, you know, I went to the beach, or I just stayed in and read a book, or I spent time with my girlfriend, or whatever, right? And then again, you get into more of a conversation, and those are more things that you can ask questions about and dive deeper into. This is kind of similar, but it's something that I think is really underrated. And that is to have a set of, if you want to call it, material in your head prepared already that you can bring up to anybody just randomly. So like I said there with the, you know, what you do in your job and why you like it, that's something that is going to be true to anybody you talk to because that's just your job and how you feel about it. On a week by week basis, you know, just to think, give it like a couple seconds and think, how was my weekend? What did I enjoy today? You know, these sorts of questions. Now you just have a set of things you can pull on instantly if the conversation starts to go into a lull, that you can just be like, you know, by the way, I went to the beach this week and it was really just empty and quiet and nice and relaxing and I loved it, right? Or I saw this news article that was really interesting about P. Diddy or whatever. What do you think about that? Right? It's just things that now you have kind of made yourself a more interesting person. And as such, you can just keep the conversation flowing and restart it if it ever falls short. If you want a more in-depth video that dives more into the actual examples you can use in conversation to keep it fun and flowing, I highly recommend you check out my online community. It is called Confidently Connected. Right now it is for free and it allows you quicker access to me, those more in-depth videos that I've been mentioning, as well as a community of people who are also trying to become more confident, likable, and connected. So you can use them as accountability and to bounce ideas off of as well. If you want me to answer your question next, leave a comment in my community because I'll be answering those first, or you can leave a comment down in the YouTube below and I'll eventually get to that too. But that's all from me today. My name is Isaiah. I hope you have an amazing day, and above all else, I hope you keep connecting. Take care and good luck.